Welcome back to Sports by GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Jeremy Lapidus. Today is Monday, September 30th. If you are just tuning in, we just went over winners and losers from a crazy Week 5 of college football. In this segment, we're getting to the first of another doubleheader. The first game between Miami, who hosts the Tennessee Titans, in a really interesting game. Not one you would pencil at the beginning of the year, but this one is really important for both of them. But before we get into that, update from baseball here as a playoff level game is being played. Bottom of the fourth, one out. The Mets trail 1-0. Currently, the Braves tossing a perfect game through 4 innings. Keep an eye on that. 7 strikeouts through 12 batters. It's pretty good. But before we get into the breakdown of the Titans taking on the Dolphins, remember, if you would like to be an even bigger part of the show than you already are, all you need to do is go to gsmcpodcast.net. Or, if you are on YouTube, you can use that super chat feature. If you do either of those two things, a message should pop up on the bottom of the screen for you, me, and everybody else around the world to see. If you do have a burning question about sports, anything at all that you would like to ask, go ahead and throw that in the comments. Throw it in the chat. I will get to it as soon as I possibly can. I appreciate everybody so much for sticking around, talking some sports with me here on a beautiful Monday, September 30th. But like I was saying, getting into the Monday night preview, this time between the Dolphins and the Titans, a second straight Monday night doubleheader. Quick side tangent for you. I don't love it. I wish there was just one game. It's hard to watch too, especially when they're both going on at the same time. I don't know what your guys' thoughts are on that, but I'm not the biggest fan of the double headers. I don't hate it, but it's not my favorite thing. Regardless, the Tennessee Titans, Will Levis, a struggling Tennessee Titans team, coming in with a record of 0-3, head down to Miami to take an equally struggling Miami Dolphins team who start off the season at 1-2. Obviously, the big story with the Dolphins is they don't have their quarterback. What are they going to do at quarterback? Skylar Thompson clearly was not the answer last week in an absolute beatdown that they took from the Seattle Seahawks. And as much as the Seahawks are good, a lot of that was the Dolphins being bad. Not being able to move the ball offensively, not being able to get it to the hands of their playmakers, not being able to run that full offense that Mike McDaniel, getting confused with the Seahawks coach over there, had him on the brain, that the Dolphins offense likes to run, right? Now they bring in Tyler Snoop Huntley. Snoop Huntley, a guy who made a Pro Bowl, as fluky as that was a Pro Bowler a couple of years ago with Baltimore, has played in high-leverage games in the playoffs, and most crucially, I think, for this game and for the Dolphins, while they wait for Tua to come back, he has that extra element of being able to run the ball. We see how important that is every single time Lamar Jackson steps on the field. Every single time Jaden Daniels has stepped on the field in the last couple of weeks. We see how important that threat of the run is, and Snoop Huntley, has been huge, has the ability to do that, has stepped in for Lamar Jackson and done admirably in his place. He is a guy that I think can run this Miami Dolphins offense effectively. It's not going to be as many deep shots. It doesn't need to be. He just needs to be able to escape from the pocket when he needs to. He needs to be calm, and he needs to not turn the ball over. Those are all things that Skylar Thompson was not able to do last week. We've seen him be able to run this offense in the past. I thought it'd be okay. But Tyler Huntley, again, adds that extra layer of the run game, something that the Dolphins have really been laying into early this season. We see a large helping of Devon Achane every single game, seemingly. Not that I hate that. Not that I think that's a bad thing. But having Snoop Huntley in there, you'll be able to open up your playbook a little bit. I'm sure the Dolphins coaching staff is licking their chops to get a guy that's a dual threat going. They haven't been able to do that. They're one of the most creative coaching staffs in the league. I think it'll be a lot of fun to watch. Now, that Titans defense, as much praise as I'm putting on the Dolphins, and as much as I do think this is I won't say match made in heaven, but a much better quarterback situation for the Dolphins than they had last week. The Tennessee Titans defense is really good. Do not go underestimating this Titans defense because of how bad that team has been as a whole. That defense has one of the best interior pass rushes in the entire league. They went out and they got a couple of corners. One of them's injured, but still, they have a very good secondary as well. At all levels of this defense, trading for Ernest Jones from the Rams right before the season starts, you have a all-pro capable level player at all three levels of the defense from Tennessee, and it's what kept them in the games. What has lost them the games is exactly what I talked about with Jalen Hurts when we went through our winners and losers with the Eagles. Turnovers, turnovers, turnovers. Will Levis has made a stupid, dumb, idiotic play in each of the first 3 games of the season for the Titans. And it has all but lost the game for them. The Titans, in a not so alternate future, in an not so alternate reality, are 3-0 right now. Maybe not 3-0, but they're at least 2-1. I don't think they would have beaten the Packers, but they should have beaten the Bears. I think that's undeniable. They should have beaten the Jets probably. A couple of boneheaded moves in the red zone. If they just get points out of that, they win this game. They should be 2-1 right now. Instead, we're talking about an 0-3 team, talking about one of the worst teams in the league, but that's not how this roster is built. This roster is talented. I'm not one to sit here and say, oh, they're the best 0-3 team ever, because that's dumb. That's stupid. But this is a very talented roster that, because of the many self-inflicted mistakes, has not been able to play up to where we expect them to. The line currently sits at Miami -1. Or I think it's actually at -2.5 right now. When I took my notes, it was a couple days ago. But yeah, Miami -2.5 right now. At home, both of these teams need a win in the worst possible way. Miami, still with playoff hopes and aspirations, needs this one to stop falling too far behind from the rest of their Patriots in the AFC East. Right? This is a win that, if they're able to pull it off, they would just be 1 game back of the Bills, tied with the Jets now. This is a huge game for them. The Titans need to get off the snide. The Titans have been unable to really get anything going. They have a bye next week, and getting some positive momentum heading into a bye is huge. It's massive. It can't really be overstated. That being said, Will Levis needs to play a clean game. The Dolphins' defense isn't anything special, but they will pounce on mistakes you make. This is not a Dolphins defense that is going to, hold your team to is not going to stifle your team. But this is a Dolphins defense that, if you let them, and again, that's key, if you let them, will make your day not very fun. They have a solid pass rush. Bradley Chubb, Jalen Phillips coming around the edge. You have Jalen Ramsey on the outside, right? It's not like this is just a bunch of slouches on defense. They have their quirks, they have their issues, but still, the Dolphins are a very good team, top to bottom, and if you let them get that momentum, they will kill you. I think this is the deal with the Titans every week. As long as they play clean football, as long as Will Levis doesn't make that 1 or 2 big mistakes that he's been really prone to making, that defense is good enough to keep them in the game with just about anybody. I don't trust Will Levis until I see it. I'm taking Miami to win 21-20 in a very close one. We saw Will Levis make a huge comeback against this Dolphins team last year on a Monday night. Maybe he turns it around, gets it figured out, but that defense was much more injured against the Titans last time they played. So I don't think this will play out the same way. But we'll see. Let me know what you think is going to happen in this game. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to break down the other Monday Night Football game, this time between 2 of the best teams in the entirety of the NFC. Could be a matchup that we see in the playoffs, possibly, if everything continues to play out the way it's going right now. But we'll be right back, breaking down the Lions taking on the Seattle Seahawks. Be right back here on Sports by GSMC Podcast Network. Welcome back to Sports by GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Jeremy Lapidus. Today is Monday, September 30th. If you are just tuning in, we just went over the Dolphins hosting the Tennessee Titans in the first of the doubleheaders for Monday Night Football tonight. Before we get into previewing the second of those games, quick baseball update for you. The Mets have broken up the perfect game and no-hit bid from the Braves. Still trail 1-0 in the top of the fifth. Pete Alonso on first base after hitting a single. Like I said, in this segment, we're going to get into the second of the two doubleheaders. This one as the Detroit Lions host the Seattle Seahawks, the undefeated Seattle Seahawks. But before we get into that, remember, if you would like to be an even bigger part of the show than you already are, all you need to do is go to gsmcpodcast.net. Or if you are on YouTube, you can use that super chat feature. If you do either of those two things, a message should pop up on the bottom of the screen for you, me, and everybody else around the world to see. If you do have a burning question about sports, anything at all that you would like to ask, go and throw that in the comments. Throw it in the chat. I will get to it as soon as I possibly can. I appreciate everybody so much for sticking around, talking some sports with me here on a beautiful Monday, September 30th. But like I was saying, we are going to get into the second of the Monday Night Football games. This one as the host Detroit Lions take on the undefeated Seattle Seahawks. Geno Smith and the Seahawks team have been playing unbelievable football through the first couple of weeks of this season, winning a couple of massive games already. The Seahawks have taken down teams like, not super impressive, the Broncos, the Patriots, and the Dolphins. But they've done it looking really good. Those three might be some of the worst teams in the league, but they've been really good looking. They've been really good looking against these teams, right? They've dominated these games that they're supposed to dominate, and that is impressive. Some people are saying the Seahawks are one of the best teams in the NFC right now. This is going to be a clash to prove whether or not they belong in that conversation. The Lions, after making the NFC Championship game last year, I think undeniably are in that conversation. They did lose one to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 2 weeks ago, but that being said, they still have proven to be a very, very good team. They were able to get off the schneid, beating the Arizona Cardinals last week in a lower scoring affair than you might expect against the Arizona Cardinals, but that defense does its job. That defense holds up against a very good offense in the Arizona Cardinals. See if they can do it again. Obviously, the biggest thing with the Seahawks here is Geno Smith has not turned the ball over, and I hate to harp back on that fact again, but it's such a massive, massive thing in the game of football. Turnovers are what makes the difference in most football games, right? Geno Smith has been incredibly accurate. Probably, if you just look at on-target rate, the second most accurate quarterback behind Jaden Daniels. Jaden Daniels, who has been otherworldly accurate. But this is a team that plays within its strengths. It knows what it's good at, the Seahawks. They know what they're bad at, and they are just going to grind away at you, right? They don't have Kenny Walker, who's been their big play guy in the run game. Zach Charbonnet's been able to fill in pretty solid for them. You have DK Metcalf on the outside. You have JSN, who's kind of stepped up and taken a wide receiver 2 role, with Tyler Lockett fading back to that wide receiver 3 now. That is one of the best receiving cores in football. The Lions, while their defense is much improved, no doubt about that, they still have their issues. A lot of young players. Marcus Davenport, who was eating up offensive lines in the first couple of weeks of the season, is out for the rest of the year after getting injured in week 3. That is a huge loss for them. He is a guy out on opposite side, of Aiden Hutchinson that played such a crucial role for them. Being able to get pressure, being able to take some pressure away from Aiden Hutchinson, who himself has been awesome, had 5 sacks in a game. That's not a normal thing for someone to be able to do. But still, this is a very good Lions team. Alex Anzalone has been awesome, moving all around the defense as like the face of it, the leader in that linebacker room, and getting to that offense. Obviously, they're going to feed you a heavy diet of the run, and that's something that Seattle's been solid against this year. That was one of their bigger weaknesses last year, but the addition of Byron Murphy, the addition of new head coach Mike Macdonald, former defensive coordinator of the Baltimore Ravens, has really helped their scheme. And that's going to be the key. Are the Seattle Seahawks going to be able to shut down the run? Are they going to be able to take the brutal punishment of a David Montgomery and then react to the speed of a Jahmyr Gibbs? That's going to be the question. The Lions, they'll get theirs through the air. They're fine through the air. They haven't been elite through the air like they were last week. Laporta's been hurt and has taken a step back. Amon-Ra, while he's still been really good, hasn't been that focal point. It's been the run game. That's always what it's been with the Lions. Can Byron Murphy, can the defensive line of the Seahawks slow down that very, very good run game and very good offensive line of the Detroit Lions? And again, that's what it's going to come down to. Right now, it's a 4.5-point spread in favor of the Lions at home. It's a lot of points to give against a good Seahawks team. Again, the Seahawks haven't really played anybody yet, and that can be a criticism of them. But taking care of business against bad teams, like the Seahawks have done, is something you're supposed to be able to do. That's something a good team's supposed to be able to do. It is in question who wins this game. I think this is much more of a toss-up than I think a lot of people think. I think both of these games will be very, very close. My personal score prediction is Detroit claws a victory out of this one, winning 27-24, very similar to the way they won week 1 in overtime on that Sunday night football game. Not going to be a very comfortable win, but when it matters most, I think they're going to be able to play bully ball against this team and get what they need. This is a Seahawks team that I do think is... I don't think they're one of the better teams in the NFC. I think they're definitely top half of the NFC, definitely playoff contenders. But I don't think I was talking to some people. They were saying the Seahawks top 3 in the NFC. I don't think that's fair. I don't think that's accurate. I know they're 3-0, but record doesn't mean everything. We've seen that with some teams, fluky records. You can think back to the Steelers back when they started off 9-0-1, ended up losing to the Commanders and then lost the rest of their games, limped their way into the playoffs, got killed in that first round, right? Record isn't everything. Part of it's getting lucky, part of it's getting good. And I think getting lucky has been a big part of the Seahawks' first couple weeks against not great teams, but that doesn't mean they're bad. Good teams beat bad opponents, good teams find a way to win, and the Seahawks have found ways to win. I don't think it continues tonight. I think Detroit ends up beating them in a close one. Detroit wins 27-24. But let me know what you think of anything we talked about here in today's show, of this game in particular. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Who do you think wins? Why do you think they win it? But thank you, everybody, so much for tuning in to today's episode of Sports by GSMC Podcast Network. I've been your host, Jeremy Lapidus. Tomorrow's Tuesday. You know what that means? It's Ranking Tuesday. NFL Power Rankings. NCAA Top 25. Group of 5 Top 5. And a very special for the MLB playoffs. We're going to break down the whole postseason tomorrow. As it begins, it'll actually start before our show begins, but we'll get a little bit of our foresight there, and we'll talk all about it. So make sure you tune in tomorrow. Big show. Can't wait to see you all then. You all have a good one. Bye-bye. Let's go. I feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Shit.